Hey, you, over here. Can't juggle work, social life, and sleep? Well, don't worry. We can't either. But what we can teach you is how to juggle these three bin bags. So leave your group project behind, forget those late night drinking sessions, and come learn a novel skill you can use to impress the children at the next family meeting. Merriam-Webster defines juggling as performing the tricks of a juggler, and a juggler as one skilled in keeping several objects in motion in the air at the same time, by alternately tossing and catching them. For us, we use these three bin bags, starting with two on the right hand and one on the left. We learned the art of juggling three items through the YouTube video by Josh Horton, a gold medalist in the World Championships of Juggling. All it took us was 4 weekly 1-hour sessions of practice. So keep on watching and follow us on our juggling journey. As there were several concepts taught, we decided for each member to learn juggling using a different concept, with the effectiveness judged upon intra-individual improvement. If you have no time to practice juggling, you can try this practice distribution Dennis and Desiree did, called massed practice, where you juggle for a full 15 minutes with little to no rest between practice trials. You can also choose to practice juggling skill as a whole, like Dennis and Xiaoting. Or you can break it down into sub-routines where you practice one component of juggling before adding on subsequent components, leading to the final skill of juggling. This is called segmentation, a type of part practice, and this is how Desiree and Felix managed to juggle so well at the end of 4 weeks. And here's how the segmentation works. To first get used to the action of tossing the ball back and forth, you start with one ball. You then transition to using two balls, with the tempo of right-left, catch-catch, and once you are confident, change to left-right, catch-catch. For the last segment involving two balls, just do the previous two segments consecutively, and you'll get right-left, catch-catch, left-right, catch-catch. Nice! Now you're almost there. You can now add in the third ball and go with the tempo right-left, right catch. Similarly, now do left-right, left catch. Finally, add one last throw into the sequence and you're ready to carry on indefinitely. In summary, Dennis practiced his juggling as a whole using massed practice for 15 minutes straight. Desiree practiced using segmentation for 15 minutes straight. Felix practiced using segmentation as well, but with distributed practice of 3 minutes times 5 sets with 3 minutes break. And lastly, Xiaoting practiced her juggling as a whole using distributed practice of 3 minutes times 5 sets with 3 minutes break as well. So, how did we measure our progress over these 4 weeks? Well, we conducted a pre and post test at the start and end of each session respectively. We set up our camera on a yellow cylinder aligned to the edge of the wall, supported by 3 balls. We then positioned ourselves 405 centimeters away, with our toes right behind the white line, and had a whiteboard standing on the black line 445 centimeters away. For scoring, we gave ourselves 1 point for each ball caught using the opposite hand it was thrown with. Our first pre-test was a disaster, as none of us had any prior experience, and thus we were unable to meaningfully juggle the balls. However, following 4 weeks of practice, you can see that each member has improved and produced outstanding results in the post-test, despite using our respective methods of practice. And looking at this graph, we can see that comparatively, Felix, who used distributed and part practice, experienced the greatest rate of improvement. And if you here have a family event coming up and want to be able to juggle very well for your nieces and nephews, you should then adopt Felix's method of distributed part practice, ensuring progressive and effective learning. As juggling is a simple continuous skill, Using distributed practice can lead to better performance and learning. This allows you to rest in between trials and not only reduce the mental fatigue of long continuous practice, but also consolidate what you have learned and leave room for mental practice. Generally, learners are encouraged to practice skills as a whole wherever possible. However, the lack of prior experience in juggling made it difficult for us to determine the proper technique. On top of being beginners, we were also overwhelmed by the skill and had difficulties with certain parts, such as throwing and catching the third ball. This difficulty in performing the whole skill initially led us to believe that part practice would be the better approach. Those who employed part practice were thus able to break the skill down into smaller parts. These subroutines allow them to understand each part of the skill and have a natural progression to the final continuous skill. Sure enough, both Desiree and Felix had jumps in performance in week 3, as they were able to consolidate all the subroutines of juggling into one continuous skill during the post-test. The segmentation of juggling, specifically manipulating the number of balls and the starting hand, can also be seen as varying practice conditions. This intra-skill variability during practice can help you understand why part practice was better in learning juggling. The easier subroutines fit into the initial stage of learning in Gentile's model, where you gain movement experience and develop a generalized motor program. With changes in either the number of balls or starting hand, you explore movement solutions to this change in task constraints. This will be easier since practicing earlier subroutines has already allowed you to develop a consistent movement pattern, and all you have to do is develop schema for these changes. This progressive approach allows you to incorporate newer segments into your routine. In essence, the initial stage sets a solid foundation in juggling, while in the later stages of learning, the additional practice allows fixation of the movement pattern. Finally, the variability encourages you to invest more cognitive effort, as opposed to whole practice where the repetitiveness can cause boredom and lack of attention. We've gone through the experimenting of different types of practice and shown you how easy learning juggling is. So go ahead and start learning by using our recommendations. All the best!